And welcome to another episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Chachere, bringing you all the latest news in regards to your North Carolina Tar Heels. And of course, I am also the lead beat writer for North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. Of course, earlier today, we released another episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. We did two today, one on football, one on basketball. And the reason why I did that is because, for starters, huge football weekend for football this weekend with of course, you got the Victory Bell matchup against Duke. So wanted to cover something on there. I covered how North Carolina could stop Darian Mensah. I gave a good list of reasons why. This is a short video, 7-8 minutes, but it's worth your while. And I also want to record a basketball podcast as well, because, of course, that's the talk of the town right now. It's basketball season right here in North Carolina, and it's everyone's kind of interested in it. And also because the whole week is basically going to be football. I want to do a basketball podcast to get knocked out before we really started diving into our Duke coverage, which we'll have throughout the day today, and of course tomorrow and Saturday, and then of course Sunday, because you got to deal with the aftermath of the game, whether they win or lose. So a lot of content coming in these next few days. Lots and lots of content, football, and also some basketball as well. As basketball will be traveling to Fort Myers, Florida, to take a part in the Fort Myers tip-off against. They'll play against St. Bonaventure on November 25th, Tuesday to be exact, and then on Thanksgiving Day against Michigan State. Both games will be on Fox Sports 1, or one of them will be on Fox Sports 1 and the other one will be on Fox. I think that's the case. Actually, let me double check right here. I got the notes right here. So the game against St. Bonaventure will be on Fox Sports 1 at 6 p.m. on next Tuesday. And then on Thanksgiving Day, the Tar Heels will play Michigan State at 4:30 on Fox. So there's that. But anyway, of course, after the game, the game on Thursday against Navy, the Tar Heels did not play a great game. They looked sloppy throughout. I mean, there are times where they looked like they were dominating, but in actuality, they weren't, because Caleb Wilson was dealing with foul trouble. The second he gets off the court, the Navy goes on the run. The last 3 minutes of the first half and the first 2 minutes of the first half, a span of a total of 5 minutes. North Carolina went 0 for 7 from the field and had 2 turnovers. And it really wasn't until Jared Stevens' dunk and then Caleb Wilson just having dunk after dunk after dunk after dunk, when North Carolina pulled away. They were able to take a 24-point lead with less than 5 minutes to go, but then Navy went on a 15-0 run and ended up finishing the end of the game with a 17-5 run in the final few minutes. And they didn't play great basketball. I mean, even though North Carolina rebounded them 45-37, Navy out-rebounded them on the offensive glass. North Carolina had 13 turnovers compared to Navy's 6. It wasn't a great game for the Tar Heels. And I remember coming out with the media, me, Andrew Jones, and Noah Weisskopf, Tar Heel 24/7. You had the Inside Carolina guys, Jeremiah Holloway, of course, Shelby Swanson. I mean, all these different media people, the more notable media people, almost some others, of course. And we were waiting there, and we knew the players were going to come out, but it took forever. It took about 25, 30 minutes. And while we're doing that, while we're waiting, we were literally watching Syracuse and Monmouth play basketball. Also, that lets you know, as a guy from Louisiana who's usually covering college football, the fact that everyone's eyes are glued to Monmouth and Syracuse just shows me the level of passion people down here in North Carolina have for college basketball. The fact that they're watching that game, right? So that was really interesting. So, but then finally Henry Vassar comes out, and then he just drops right there. Yeah, so originally we all thought, okay, Hubert's just laying it on him, but no. Henry Vassar came out, and one of the first things he said was, "We had a players only meeting." which kind of took everyone by surprise because, you would think usually when the team's in there for that long, you would think it's because Hubert or that, whoever the head coach may be for any program is just laying it up on them, saying MF and cursing them out and maybe throwing a tablet across the room or I don't know. There's different coaches have different ways to get into the team. But it was actually a players-only meeting. Hubert didn't have to speak. And the players, held each other accountable. They were communicating, stuff like that. And, a lot of people may freak out because when they hear players-only meeting, that means, oh my God, what the hell is going on? In this case, it's a great thing. Like, they weren't even being proactive. They weren't even being reactive. They were being proactive. They were like, all right, we got to focus up. And yes, you could say, well, Seth Trimble was injured, and I get all that. But, you have to also hold yourself accountable. Caleb was getting a little frustrated out there at times. Even though he had a great game, he was getting frustrated at times, and he got in foul trouble, right? The guys weren't necessarily making the shots or turning the ball over. Like I said, 13 turnovers compared to Navy's 6. There's a whole lot of stuff that went wrong in that game, and they were basically like self-correcting themselves, telling them what they need to do from here on out, holding each other accountable. And all the players that came out, it was Henry Vassar, Luka Bogovac, Jaron Stevenson, of course, Caleb Wilson. They all came out and said it was a great thing that they had the players on the meeting. And they all learned from each other. And what this shows you, in hindsight, what this shows you, not only is that the team is acknowledging that of their faults and what they need to correct themselves on, but it also shows you that this team necessarily hasn't peaked yet. And I think that's a good thing. It's also a lot easier to say you haven't peaked yet when one of your better players is out. And probably your second best player outside of Caleb Wilson is out with an injury. And also the team leader. Seth Trimble's the team leader, of course. He's the most vocal one. But I think it's a good thing that this team hasn't peaked yet. You want your teams to kind of peak later in the season because you want them to go through these kinks early on before you get good. You don't want to be really, really good and then deal with those kinks down the line, especially when you get to closer and closer to tournament time. You want to learn from each other early on the season and, see some of your weaknesses now rather than later. And also, I think it's like I said, it's also a good thing that Seth Trimble was injured. Not his injury. His injury wasn't good, but the circumstances around it where you have to see who you have outside of Seth Trimble. You need to find out who are the guys who are going to step up in the backcourt. And right now you've seen Derek Dixon become a lot more comfortable. You've seen more of Luka Bogovac and see what he could possibly do. Kyan Evans, I mean, of course, I think he's done an overall good job. Last game, the last game against Navy didn't have a great game, 1 for 9 from the field, but he did have 5 assists, 5 or 6 assists, if I remember correctly. He had 6 assists. He had 6 assists, but he also had 3 turnovers. And he also went 1 for 9 from the field. So, he needs to improve a little bit. But overall, I think he's been doing good. And I think once he gets more comfortable, we'll start to see more of the kind of evidence we saw at Colorado State. But even at Colorado State, he acknowledged that he really didn't take off just in the second half of the season. So we might not be even seeing the best of Kyan Evans. So and he just needs to get acclimated. Same thing with Luka Bogovac. He still isn't fully acclimated yet, but it's gotten better. Derek Dixon, same thing. So I think so. In hindsight, yes. I think it's a good thing that this team hasn't peaked yet. You want this team to kind of peak later rather than earlier, because I want them to go through the stretch right now, figuring themselves out right now than later. And then also, you got 2 really big games against St. Bonaventure and Michigan State. And if you split them, right? So you beat St. Bonaventure and Michigan State and play well against Michigan State, then I think that's a good thing. You get to see where this team's truly at. Because these last 3 games without Seth Trimble, you went up against Radford, NC Central, and Navy. And Radford, I think, could be a tournament team. I think and then also Navy is projected to win their conference, the Patriot League. But now these next 3 opponents, You go against a St. Bonaventure program that's solid. I believe they are undefeated right now. The last time I checked, let me double check to make sure they are undefeated. But yeah, St. Bonaventure is 4-0. They've been Youngstown State, Siena, Canisius, and Bradley 4-0 for the season. They'll play Robert Morris, who's 3-1 for the season, later on tonight at 6 on ESPN Plus. And of course, they play North Carolina. North Carolina will be going to that game undefeated. And then North Carolina, the next game, they'll go up against a Michigan State team that looks dangerous. They're undefeated. They just beat the living crap out of Kentucky. I mean, they look really, really good. So, I mean, if North Carolina were to win these next two games against St. Bonaventure and Michigan State without Seth Trimble, that's scary hours for not only the rest of the ACC, but the nation. I don't know if they're going to do it. I think they'll be St. Bonaventure and lose against Michigan State. But if they were able to win both, that is going to be a wake-up call, not only for the rest of the ACC with Duke and NC State and Virginia, you name it, and Louisville, but also the rest of the country. And North Carolina really needs the season to show that we're still North Carolina. I think that's really, really important. But without further ado, that's going to wrap it up for the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Chachere, the lead beat writer for North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.